Chuck Robbins, the CEO of Cisco, joining us right now to talk more about this. So what do you think about the global story right now? Is it as bad as so many people are suggesting?
Well, you know, we have, obviously, as I said earlier, we watched this unfold over the last couple of weeks, as you have, so we're sort of seeing it real time, just like you. If you go back to our last quarter, you know, things were generally good in the U.S. We had Europe was doing okay, and then the emerging markets was a complete mix. And the irony for us is at a time where everybody's talking about China having challenges, last quarter was our first growth quarter in China in over 2.5 years. So it's a very mixed environment right now.
So it's mixed. I mean, this transition of going from an export-led economy to a consumer-led economy doesn't happen overnight. I mean, do you feel that in terms of doing business in China, that transition?
Well, we see that the market there is huge, and so what we've done with our strategy is we've begun to diversify it out into different geographic areas. We've diversified our business across state-owned enterprises as well as commercial customers. We're working smart cities and public sector, so I think that it's a huge economy, and if it's still growing 6%, it's still not bad.
You know what I've been hearing from a number of people is Europe looks better than they thought. Any thoughts on Europe right now?
Well, you know, the irony about Europe right now is that the whole theme of Davos, the fourth industrial revolution, the leaders in Europe actually understand that, and they get it, and they're thinking about the implications. What does it mean for jobs? They're thinking about how they need to drive some element of policy change at the European Union level to be more competitive. And so, you know, we see Europe trying to make all the right moves, and in general, we've seen it relatively positive.
I mean, you know, here we are in a new year. I mean, the budgets have been made, I guess, by major businesses. I mean, yours is a business where you really have to have technology to enable growth for companies. Are you seeing budgets increase? Are you seeing more money spent on things like that?
Well, if you get back to this transition that we see happening, and you and I talked about this the last time we were together, this move to digitization that every country, every company is going to embrace, it's about growth. It's also about the next generation of productivity. It's about efficiency. It's about enabling capabilities that they've never had before. So, you know, companies now believe that technology is completely integrated into their business strategy. So they don't necessarily view it as an operating expense anymore. They view it as a key enabler of their strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Let me get your take on this whole debate that we're having in America about government and security and tracking terrorists. Should telecom and technology companies allow government to be snooping on people's private communications, as the government says it needs to see this so that they could track terrorists better?
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is there's clearly not an easy answer to this one, and I think that depending on the most recent circumstances that are going on, people have different perspectives on it. So I think that it's a balance. We talked about it this morning in a session we had here, that there needs to be a balance between, you know, privacy rights and national security, and I think it's something that business needs to come together with the public sector and the policymakers to actually figure out what the right answer is.
So, I mean, you know, Tim Cook from Apple said, look, if you have a back door for government, it's a back door, and the bad actors will get in on that back door.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we should have back doors, and we don't have back doors, and I don't believe that, but I think it's a discussion that we ought to have, and that the technology companies in Silicon Valley and the policymakers should come together and have the discussion to figure out what the balance is. Because I think the citizens want both, and they want privacy, but they also want safety.
What about securing the data? I mean, right now, this is data overload. We know that. What are the answers to, and what is Cisco's solution?
Well, if you think about data, it really is, companies are thinking about data almost like they would any valuable asset on their balance sheet. It is incredibly important to them, and they need to protect it in similar ways. And I think around the world, what we have to do is we have to build, you know, systems of trust around how data moves between sovereign nations, how data is used with strategic partnerships, and I think it really is going to come down to us creating an environment where there's trust that comes from not only technological security, but also just policy and agreement on how we're all going to operate together.
Chuck, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for having some fun with us with Fox and Friends.
Happy to anytime.
Chuck Robbins is the CEO of Cisco.